Have you ever stopped to think that a true revolution can begin with something as simple as a smile? The idea might seem naive, even simplistic. For G.K. Chesterton, joy was a powerful force, capable of transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary. We live in a time when the worries and pressures of daily life seem to crush us, pushing us into a constant state of stress and anxiety. However, Chesterton offers us a radically different vision. He challenges us to rediscover the value of joy, even in the most common circumstances. Chesterton, with his sharp and witty view of the world, believed that joy was not just a fleeting emotional state, but an active choice and attitude toward life. In his work Orthodoxy, he describes joy as something intrinsic to the Christian faith, a reflection of a soul that has understood the wonder of existence. He writes, "The proof that God has a sense of humor is that he made mankind." This quote, full of irony and wit, carries a profound truth. Joy is a divine characteristic, and as creatures made in God's image, we are called to reflect this joy in the world. But how can we maintain this joy amidst daily tribulations? In a world where the news bombards us with crises and tragedies, how can we find room for joy? Chesterton suggests that the answer lies in changing our perspective. Instead of seeing joy as something dependent on external circumstances, we should view it as an internal decision, choice to face life with new eyes, with a mind open to the wonder and mystery that surrounds us. Imagine a typical day. We wake up, face the traffic, deal with the demands of work or studies, come home exhausted, and perhaps sit in front of the TV to try to forget the pressure of the day. In this cycle, it is easy to let monotony and fatigue stifle our ability to find joy. However, Chesterton reminds us that joy can be found even in the smallest detail. He suggests that if we have the courage to look at the world with the curiosity of a child, we will discover that life is full of small wonders that go unnoticed when we are trapped in routine. A sincere smile from a stranger, the birds singing in the morning, the smell of freshly brewed coffee, these are the moments, seemingly insignificant, that Chesterton encourages us to value. In his words, "The world will never starve for want of wonders, but only for want of wonder." When we allow joy to permeate even the simplest aspects of our daily lives, we begin to transform the ordinary into something extraordinary. This shift in perspective not only elevates us spiritually, but also positively affects those around us. The Bible reinforces this idea when it instructs us to rejoice in the Lord always. Philippians 4:4. Joy, therefore, is not just an ephemeral emotion. It is an expression of our trust in God, a manifestation of our faith that regardless of circumstances, there is a greater good at work in our lives. Chesterton saw this joy as a way to resist the cynicism that often threatens to invade our hearts. He believed that by choosing joy, we are not only protecting ourselves from despair, but also affirming our hope in the ultimate triumph of good over evil. So, throughout our day, we can ask ourselves, where am I finding my joy? Am I allowing the world's worries to overwhelm me? Or am I choosing to see the beauty in the little things? Chesterton's message is clear. Joy is a transformative force, capable of renewing our perspective and giving us the strength to face difficulties with a light and hopeful heart. It is this joy that transforms the everyday, making life not only bearable, truly rich and meaningful. By embracing this vision, we begin to understand that the true revolution does not come from great external changes, but from an inner transformation. Joy, when cultivated daily, has the power to light up the darkest days and spread light and hope in a world that so desperately needs it. Therefore, let us, like Chesterton, choose joy, not as an escape from reality, but as a way of living it to the fullest. Humor is one of the most powerful tools we have at our disposal, although it is often underestimated or misunderstood. For G.K. Chesterton, humor was not merely a means of entertainment or comic relief, but a profound expression of the human condition, and a way to resist the darkness that often tries to take hold of our lives. He saw humor as a way to deal with the absurdities of the world, and more importantly, as a shield against cynicism and despair. In times like ours, where we are constantly bombarded by grim and worrying news, humor can be seen as a light that guides us out of the abyss of negativity. Chesterton, in his keen and paradoxical vision, stated that laughter is a benign contempt. This idea reflects the notion that humor, especially when directed at ourselves, is a way of showing that we are not dominated by the adversities or failures that we inevitably face. By laughing at our own imperfections, we are actually affirming that they do not have the power, however, to define or limit us. This is a crucial aspect of humor that Chesterton saw as essential to spiritual and mental health. Instead of succumbing to despair in the face of life's challenges, humor offers us a way to face them with lightness and grace. In today's context, where cynicism and pessimism seem to dominate public discourse, humor becomes even more important. Social media, for example, has become fertile ground for the proliferation of biting comments, relentless criticism, and a sort of competition to see who can be more cynical. This environment can be suffocating, undermining our ability to see the bright side of life. Chesterton would remind us that in such moments, humor is a way of rebelling against this tide of negativity. He does not suggest that we ignore problems or live in a bubble of artificial happiness, but rather that we maintain the ability to laugh, even when circumstances are difficult. This is more than a mere survival strategy. It is an act of courage and resistance. The Bible also echoes this wisdom when it exhorts us to rejoice in the Lord always. Philippians 4, verse 4. This joy is not superficial, but a deep trust in God's goodness and sovereignty, regardless of circumstances. Chesterton understood this and saw humor as a manifestation of this Christian joy. He believed that laughter was, in a sense, a prayer, a form of thanksgiving for being able to see the beauty and irony in life, even amidst its difficulty. This kind of humor is not escapism, but a way of affirming that, ultimately, life is good, and that good will triumph over evil. In Orthodoxy, Chesterton writes about the importance of maintaining a light heart, even in the face of the greatest challenges. He believed that the ability to laugh at the most serious situations, and even at ourselves, was evidence of a healthy soul and robust faith. When we become too serious, we lose the ability to see life in its entirety, with its beauties, pains, and ironies. Humor, then, is a way to maintain this broad perspective, to prevent difficulties from obscuring our vision of the fundamental goodness of the world. Therefore, in a world that often seems determined to bring us down, humor is a vital tool for our emotional and spiritual survival. It is a way to remember that no matter how difficult the circumstances, there is always something good to be found, even if it is just the ability to laugh at ourselves. Chesterton invites us to use humor as a shield against despair, and as a sword to cut through the darkness of negativity. He encourages us to laugh, not to escape problems, but to face them with a lightness that only genuine faith and joy can provide. When we adopt this posture, we discover that humor can be one of the greatest expressions of our humanity and our trust in the ultimate good that governs the universe. When we talk about joy, the first image that may come to mind is one of happy moments, devoid of any suffering. However, G.K. Chesterton invites us to reconsider this notion and embrace a paradoxical truth. That true joy not only coexists with pain, but often arises from it. In his work, Orthodoxy, Chesterton writes about Christianity as a religion that can produce both sorrow and joy, suggesting that these seemingly opposite emotions are more intertwined than we might imagine. For him, joy is not the absence of pain, but the ability to find light even in the darkest shadows. We live in a world where pain is inevitable. We all face challenges, whether personal, such as the loss of a loved one or a health crisis, or collective, such as economic hardships and social crises. The natural tendency in these situations is to joy is out of reach, that it can only be regained once the problem is resolved. Chesterton, however, suggests that this view is limited. He argues that instead of waiting for the pain to pass in order to find joy, we can learn to discover this joy even in the midst of suffering. It is as if joy were a flower that blooms in the rocky soil of adversity, unexpected and beautiful. The Bible offers a similar view. In John 16:33, Jesus says, "In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I have overcome the world." This powerful statement reflects the reality that suffering is part of the human condition, but also offers the promise that, in Christ, there is a victory that transcends any pain we may experience. Chesterton echoes this message by suggesting that joy is ultimately a choice we make, an affirmation that despite the circumstances, We believe in the final goodness of the universe and the triumph of good over evil. This concept may seem difficult to accept, especially in times of intense suffering. How can we rejoice when we are going through a crisis? The answer, for Chesterton, does not lie in denying the reality of pain, but in recognizing that true joy comes from a source beyond temporary circumstance. He reminds us that joy, which was the small publicity of the pagans, is the gigantic secret of the Christian. This gigantic secret is that joy does not depend on external circumstances, but on an unshakable trust in God and His goodness. A practical example of this can be found in many of the stories of saints and martyrs throughout Christian history. These people, even facing unimaginable persecutions and sufferings, often reported a deep sense of inner peace and joy. This joy was not a denial of the brutal reality they faced, but an expression of their unwavering faith in a God who was with them, even in pain. Chesterton encourages us to seek this same joy, regardless of the challenges we face. Of course, this does not mean we should ignore our pain or pretend it does not exist. Pain is real and must be acknowledged and processed. However, Chesterton challenges us not to let pain rob us of the joy that is our right as children of God. Instead, he invites us to embrace joy as an act of faith, a declaration that we believe that in the end, good will triumph, and that darkness does not have the final word. Thus, joy in the midst of pain becomes a powerful testimony of our faith and a source of hope for others. When we can find joy in the midst of difficulties, we not only strengthen our own souls, but also offer an inspiring example to those around us. Chesterton reminds us that joy is a choice, a decision to see the light, even when everything around us seems dark. And this choice, though not always easy, is one of the greatest demonstrations of faith and trust in God that we can offer. In a world saturated with information and expectations, it is easy to lose the ability to marvel at simple things. Modern society often conditions us to believe that happiness can only be found in great achievements, spectacular moments, or the acquisition of material goods. However, G.K. Chesterton, with his deeply rooted vision of life's simplicity, invites us to rediscover joy in the little things, those that often go unnoticed in the frantic pace of daily life. Chesterton, in his work Orthodoxy, explores the idea that true joy is not necessarily found in great victories or significant events, but in the small wonders that surround us at every moment. He writes, "The world will never die of hunger for lack of wonders, but only for lack of wonderment." This quote calls our attention to the importance of cultivating a keen and sensitive eye for the small joys that life offers us. For Chesterton, the ability to marvel is an expression of a living soul, a soul that does not allow itself to be hardened by monotony or daily challenges. Chesterton's perspective is particularly relevant in the current context, where social media and consumer culture often make us feel that we never have enough, that there is always something more we need to achieve or acquire to be truly happy. The constant pursuit of more, whether in terms of success, recognition, or possessions, can blind us to the small blessings we already have. However, it is precisely in simplicity that we find true satisfaction. Think of the feeling of drinking a hot cup of coffee on a cold morning, the gentle sound of rain tapping on the window, or the smile of a friend you haven't seen in a while. These are the moments that, although they seem trivial, have the power to bring us deep and genuine joy. Chesterton challenges us not to underestimate these everyday experiences, for they are the fabric of our existence. The Bible also emphasizes this truth, especially in the book of Proverbs, where it is written, "A merry heart is good medicine." Proverbs 17:22. This reminds us that joy, especially that found in small things, has a healing power. It helps us maintain a healthy mind and spirit, giving us the strength to face the greater challenges that life inevitably brings us. When we cultivate joy in small things, we are strengthening our ability to withstand emotional and spiritual storms. Chesterton believed that this ability to find joy in the ordinary was in fact a form of gratitude. When we marvel at the small things, we are in a way giving thanks for them, recognizing their value and importance in our lives. This feeling of gratitude is essential for a balanced and happy life. It takes us out of the vicious cycle of always wanting more and teaches us to appreciate what we already have. value the gifts that life gives us daily. Furthermore, this rediscovery of joy in small things connects us more deeply with the present moment. In a world where we are constantly pulled toward the future, whether by our worries or ambitions, learning to be present and savor each moment becomes an antidote to anxiety and stress. When we focus on the small joys of the now, we set aside concerns about what is to come and find peace in the present. Chesterton thus offers us a countercultural, yet deeply liberating perspective. He encourages us to slow down, pay attention, and rediscover the joy that is already within our reach. When we do this, we not only transform the way we live, but also positively influence those around us. Joy, like laughter, is contagious. When we allow ourselves to be touched by the beauty of small things, we radiate this light to the world, creating an atmosphere of hope and contentment wherever we are. Therefore, Chesterton's message is clear and powerful. In a world that tells us we need great feats to be happy, true joy lies in the small things, in the simplicity we often neglect. By rediscovering this joy, we find not only personal satisfaction, but also a path to living more fully and connected to the essence of life. There is a unique beauty in the ability to laugh at oneself, a virtue that Chesterton considered essential for a fulfilling life. Humor, in its purest and healthiest form, is a manifestation of humility. When we laugh at our own flaws and absurdities, we acknowledge our limitations and fallibilities in a way that connects us with what is most genuinely human in us. Chesterton, with his sharp mind and open heart, understood that humor was one of the most effective ways of dealing with our imperfections, and at the same time, a powerful means of maintaining a healthy perspective on life's complexity. Chesterton wrote that humility is the mother of giants. A great man is one who never lost the heart of a child. For him, true greatness lay in maintaining the ability to marvel at the world, while simultaneously not taking oneself too seriously. This delicate balance between recognizing oneself as small before the vastness of the universe, and yet rejoicing in this smallness, is what makes humor such a powerful tool. Laughing at oneself is not an act of self-devaluation, but rather an expression of freedom. It is as if to say to the world, "I know I am fallible. That does not define me. I am greater than my mistakes and smaller than my arrogance." We live in an era that values image and perfection. Social media, the culture of success, and the pressure to always appear flawless can lead us away from this much-needed humility. In this relentless pursuit of approval and recognition, we forget that admitting our weaknesses does not make us smaller, but paradoxically elevates us. Chesterton reminds us that humor is a way to reconnect with our essence, to see ourselves as we truly are, without the masks that the world asks us to wear. He believed that angels can fly because they take themselves lightly, a powerful metaphor to teach us that the lighter we are, the higher we can go. This lightness of spirit, which Chesterton associated with humor, has deep roots in the Christian tradition. Jesus, in his divine wisdom, also valued humility as one of the fundamental virtues for those who wish to draw near to the kingdom of heaven. He said, "For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted." Luke 14:11, a statement that resonates deeply with Chesterton's philosophy. Humor, when born of humility, is a way of living this truth. It is a reminder that by stripping away our pretensions and admitting that we are just small fragments of a grand creation, we find true freedom. Humor also has the power to unite people, create bonds that transcend differences and challenge divisions. When we laugh together, we are, in a way, confessing our shared humanity, recognizing that despite our differences, we are all subject to the same frailty. Chesterton, with his sharp wit and ability to connect with people from all walks of life, understood this. He believed that humor was one of the most precious gifts God gave us, an expression of love and a weapon against pride. In one of his reflections, he notes that pride is the worst of sins because it is the most humorless. Pride blinds us to the absurdities of life and prevents us from seeing the beauty in accepting our flaws with grace. Ultimately, laughing at oneself is a way of embracing the truth, of accepting that we are not perfect, but that even so, we are deeply loved by God. Chesterton teaches us that humility, expressed through humor, is not only a moral virtue, but an attitude that allows us to live with more lightness and joy. It is an invitation to, instead of drowning in our failures, float above them, knowing that life is more than the moments when we fall. It is about how we get up with a smile. The final message that Chesterton leaves us is that humility, when combined with humor, gives us wings. It allows us to see life with purer eyes, filled with more love and less burdened with judgment. Laughing at oneself is ultimately a way of approaching true wisdom, one that recognizes our smallness, but at the same time marvels at the greatness of the Creator and creation. For G.K. Chesterton, joy was much more than a mere fleeting emotion or a passing mood. He saw joy as a profound manifestation of faith, a living evidence that the Christian, even amid life's storms, still finds reasons to smile and celebrate. Chesterton believed that joy was not just an option, but a spiritual obligation for those who profess faith in a loving and redeeming God. He describes this perspective with enchanting clarity in his work, The Everlasting Man, where he asserts that the Christian life is a grand adventure, and like any adventure, it is filled with challenges, uncertainties, and dangers. However, it is precisely in the midst of these adversities that true joy is revealed. For Chesterton, Christian joy is not the absence of problems, but the presence of an unshakable hope, firm trust that, ultimately, good will triumph. He goes so far as to say that joy, which was the small publicity of the pagans, is the gigantic secret of the Christian. This phrase encapsulates the idea that while ancient cultures saw joy as something peripheral and temporary, Christianity places it at the heart of spiritual life. Joy, according to Chesterton, is a sign that we are in tune with divine truth. He viewed the world as God's creation, full of beauty and wonders, and believed that the natural response to this creation should be joy. Joy is the gigantic secret of the Christian, he wrote, suggesting that the ability to find joy even in the most difficult situations is what distinguishes Christian faith from other philosophies and beliefs. This joy is not a denial of life's difficulties, but an affirmation that there is something greater and more enduring beyond them. Chesterton also reminds us that joy is a response to God's goodness. When we rejoice, we are in a sense acknowledging the generosity and grace of God in our lives. This is deeply rooted in the idea of gratitude, which is central to both Chesterton's theology and Scripture. The Bible encourages us to rejoice in the Lord always, Philippians 4:4. And this joy is not just a matter of circumstance, but a conscious decision to focus on the blessings we receive and on God's goodness, even when everything around us seems to be falling apart. Chesterton saw joy as a form of spiritual resistance. In a world full of despair, cynicism, and hopelessness, being able to maintain joy is an act of deep faith. It is to declare that, regardless of circumstances, God's goodness will prevail. He believed that Christian joy was a weapon against darkness, a light that shines in the darkness, bringing hope and comfort to troubled hearts. The life of Christ is the greatest example of this. Even facing the cross, he maintained the perspective that, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Hebrews 12:2. The joy that sustained Jesus is the same that should sustain us in our daily walk. Moreover, Chesterton challenges us to see joy as an expression of trust in God. When we allow ourselves to be joyful, we are, in fact, telling the world that we trust God enough to believe that He is in control, that He has a purpose, and that in the end, all things work together for good for those who love Him. Romans 8:28. This joy is a powerful testimony, especially in times of crisis, as it demonstrates that our faith is not rooted in temporary circumstances, but in the certainty of God's goodness and faithfulness. Finally, joy for Chesterton was also an act of evangelism. When others see in us a joy that cannot be shaken, they are drawn to ask about the source of that joy. And it is in this moment that we have the opportunity to share the hope that is in us, 1 Peter 3:15. Chesterton believed that a truly joyful Christian could do more to promote the kingdom of God than any complex theological or apologetic argument. In short, joy, according to Chesterton, is much more than a fleeting feeling. It is a living expression of faith, a spiritual weapon against despair, a declaration of trust in God's goodness, and a powerful tool of evangelism. When we cultivate this joy, we are living out our faith fully and reflecting the light of Christ to a world that desperately needs it. In the whirlwind of modern life, where pessimism and cynicism seem to dominate the emotional landscape, the decision to live with joy becomes an act of resistance and hope. G.K. Chesterton, with his unique and insightful vision, invites us to see joy not just as a fleeting emotion, but as a deliberate and intentional stance toward life. For him, joy was not something that just happened. It was a daily choice, a conscious commitment to finding beauty and purpose even in the most common and challenging situations. Chesterton believed that the act of choosing joy was a way of honoring life as a divine gift. He saw creation as an expression of God's goodness, and joy as the reflection of that goodness in our daily experience. The world is not lacking in wonders, but only in a sense of wonder, he wrote. This statement challenges us to reassess how we perceive the world around us. Often we are so consumed by our worries and routines that we fail to notice the small wonders that surround us. Chesterton reminds us that these wonders are not absent. It is we who, because of our lack of attention or cynical outlook, fail to perceive them. Living with joy, according to Chesterton, requires a certain humility. It means admitting that we do not have all the answers, that we do not control everything, and that, even so, life can still be beautiful and meaningful. This humility allows us to laugh at ourselves, to recognize our limitations, and to embrace imperfection as part of the human condition. By doing so, we avoid the trap of pride, which often leads us to take life and ourselves too seriously. Instead, we cultivate a lightness of spirit that helps us navigate difficulties with grace and resilience. The Bible, in harmony with this vision, exhorts us to rejoice in the Lord always. Philippians 4:4. This joy is not superficial or naive. It is a joy grounded in faith, in the certainty that God is in control, regardless of circumstance. For Chesterton, joy was a testimony of faith. He saw the Christian as someone who, even amid tribulations, could maintain an attitude of joy, because he knew that, in the end, good would triumph. Joy, therefore, becomes a way of proclaiming to the world that, despite difficulties, we believe in God's goodness and the purpose of His creation. However, cultivating joy as a lifestyle is not easy. It requires effort, discipline, and a conscious decision to turn away from the narratives of negativity that constantly surround us. The modern world, with its incessant news of crises and tragedies, often tries to convince us that joy is impossible or irrelevant. Chesterton, however, reminds us that true courage lies in choosing joy even when everything around us seems to be falling apart. The man who takes life seriously, but does not take himself too seriously, will find that in the end, life is a magnificent gift. This perspective challenges us to rediscover joy in every aspect of life, from moments of silence and solitude to interactions with others. When we choose joy, we not only improve our own lives but also positively impact those around us. Joy is contagious, spreading like a wildfire of hope and renewal, touching everyone who comes in contact. Thus, joy becomes an act of generosity, a way of sharing with the world the beauty we find in life, even on difficult days. Chesterton invites us to make this choice a daily practice, a habit that shapes our character and perspective. When we commit to living with joy, we become beacons of light in a world often shrouded in darkness. This is the essence of the Christian life according to Chesterton, a journey of faith tempered with the lightness of joy and the transformative power of humor.